Yo, what is good, Knicks Nation? Welcome back to another episode of New York Knicks Talk. And today we got this special guest, the one and only CK2K joining the show because we're on a 6-game winning streak. And how you feeling today, CK?
6 in a row, man. I'm feeling real good, bro. I'm feeling real good. And I feel hungry. I feel like I'm not satisfied. I feel like we need some more. We got some important games coming up this week, Rich. We need these. So I want more.
I love you. You have that Tom Thibodeau mentality because we know that he is not satisfied. Even the whole Knicks organization, the teammates, Derrick Rose said in the interview last night that we're taking one day at a time, one game at a time. They're not getting too high or too low, and that's what you love about this team. So if you guys are not subscribed to CK2K, but I'm assuming you guys are already, his channel is down below in the description. Make sure you go check it out. He posted one of my favorite videos he's ever created about RJ Barrett last week. Make sure you check that out. And I want to ask you about RJ Barrett to start it off because that video needed to happen. Because how many times have we seen the national media, everybody just not give RJ Barrett his respect, whether him being left off the top 25 under 25 list, not being on the all-rookie team last year. But we are seeing a different RJ Barrett in year 2 because of his shooting, his mentality. Like, what is it that RJ Barrett is making you feel like he is the future of this Knicks team?
Yeah, I feel like like you said, I think it was a video that was very necessary because it just felt he was just on such a tear. Obviously, right after that video, of course, in good old CK2K fashion, he had 2 rough games. But I blame the haircut more than my video. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, no, it was important because, like you just mentioned, especially with how we heard everybody have something to say earlier on in the season when he was, 0 for 21 in a stretch of games after his first game against the Spurs, where he was looking like, the 3-point shot was there. And then he, the shot fell off. His game wasn't, it wasn't all the way there. Everybody was feeling each other in the beginning parts of the season while we were, playing well in this, that, and third. So I feel like, that now that RJ Barrett seemed like he for the last few months, from every aspect of on the floor. Like I'm literally every aspect, from defense to shooting to offense to everything that he's been doing. He stepped up, facilitating, which we know he's always been good at. I feel like it was definitely time for at least some sort of media outlet to give him the respect that he deserved, because RJ Barrett was doing what he needed to do. We're still hearing about Ja. We're still hearing about Zion. Now we're hearing about this year's rookie class and stuff like that. But for whatever reason, RJ Barrett was being falling to the wayside. And I felt like, it just the respect wasn't being put out there. So with whoever I got that can watch my videos, that I want to make sure I put what's important to me about this basketball team out there. And RJ Barrett's been, like I mentioned in that video, he's definitely been one of my favorite prospects for a long time. There was definitely him and Lonzo Ball were 2 prospects that I wanted on the Knicks from when I saw him in high school. And so hopefully I can go 2 for 2 in this next summer. But to definitely have RJ Barrett be the guy that we drafted, we brought in, and seeing how he's growing in 1 year. Yeah, I definitely feel like, he needs the credit, because if the NBA is not going to give it to him, the fans, we're out here doing it, and that's why I made that video for him.
Yeah, and I think the most important part of that video that you reminded everybody that RJ Barrett has been in the spotlight ever since he went to high school, and he's not just some guy that we drafted and he's supposed to be the steal of the draft. Like, he was the #1 recruit coming out of high school, above Zion, above Ja, above Cam Reddish, above everybody, #1. And then he went to Duke. And we all know the story. So I love how you reminded everybody that RJ Barrett was destined to be great even before he went to Duke. And then he got overshadowed with the Zion Williamson hype. And he still broke a lot of records over there at Duke with his scoring. And then he gets drafted at 3rd overall with Ja and Zion ahead of him. And yeah, they're flashy. They do more stuff. But RJ's game is so unique to the point where he slows the game down, and his mentality for his age is next level. We see clutch RJ Barrett. I feel like that's the best part of his game so far. Ever since he missed that game-winning shot against the Timberwolves and Anthony Edwards had to take a shot at him, we see him in the press conference when he got asked about it. He's like, yeah, I saw it. I saw
Perfect
it.
response.
And then they asked him, are you confident in yourself to make that shot again? He's like, why are you even asking that? Of course, I cannot wait. And I was at the game against the Grizzlies when he got the board, went coast to coast, and got the layup over Ja Morant to force overtime, and he took over that game. So it's just so amazing to see RJ Barrett as a 20-year-old not only taking steps in every single statistical category, whether it's shooting the ball from downtown, free throw shooting, assists, rebounds, but the most important thing is this clutch shooting, because that is what this Knicks team, I feel like, needs the most, is that closer. We know Julius Randle has been stepping up in the clutch. We know Alec Burks has been stepping up in the clutch, and now RJ Barrett is. And now we even have Derrick Rose and Reggie Bullock stepping up in the clutch. So we have a deep team. Like, this is crazy. So let's talk about this 6-game winning streak. Why don't we? So the first dub we got was against the Grizzlies. That started off the 6-game winning streak. And I remember going into that game, I was at the game at the Garden, and I'm like, wow, this is a must win, because we lost 5 of our last 6 going in. And the Grizzlies are not a bad team. They're over 500, and they're a playoff team in the West right now. And I said, damn, like, if we lose this season can quickly go south. And that entire game, all throughout the first 4 quarters, before the 6 minutes left in the fourth, I'm like, oh my God, this is a nightmare. And then we just took off. So what's your thoughts on this 6-game winning streak, and who's the biggest reason for it? Obviously, Julius Randle is exploding and becoming the superstar we hope that he can become. We got a lot of deep players, with Nerlens Noel being that revelation protecting the rim, Taj Gibson backing him up, Reggie hitting clutch shots, Derrick Rose hitting clutch shots. We got Alec Burks, unfortunately, in COVID protocol, and we got people that step up. So give your overall thoughts on how this Knicks team has won 6 games straight.
Yeah, I think one of the little parts that I think we don't really think about is what you had just briefly mentioned, was what happened before the win streak, because we were from the season that we were having, like, it was looking like a magical season, and we had that, we lost 5 of those 6 games, especially when we had key games against the Timberwolves that we lost, the Mavericks that we lost, and then we had the Celtics, who we needed to win that game, especially after blowing them out the first time we played them, and we choked that one out, and then the Nets, which is one that we all wanted to see win. Those are all tough losses by what, 2 or lower, right, or some crazy stat like that, whatever it was.
I want to rip my hair out.
Yeah, exactly. It was just they weren't the type of losses you want to see. Like, nobody wants to lose, but when you lose in those kind of close games where you can only beat yourself up about it, those are the worst ones. So I feel like once we got out of that mud in that Grizzlies game, where you can tell that compared to that Boston Celtics game, compared to the Timberwolves game, the Knicks saw blood and they went after it for the first time, and that's been the theme throughout this entire win streak. That Grizzlies game, like you mentioned, I feel like even though it was getting really dicey towards the end, where it looked like, all right, we probably might drop another one. No, we saw the Knicks that we saw earlier on in the season, where they just showed that they don't give up from the first minute to the last minute of the game. And that has been the trend of this entire 6-game win streak. Definitely going to give all the props to Julius Randle. I can't say that there's this, that, the third. No, Julius Randle has been tremendous. He took advantage of what I've been calling the Julius Randle tour. That tour ended yesterday, and he was undefeated and had 30 pieces for everybody, 44 for his hometown. He was tremendous. But along with that, RJ Barrett was struggling at the earlier part of this win streak, but the others still stepped up. Alec Burks, like you mentioned, was vital for the beginning of this win streak. Unfortunately, him going down, and hopefully we can get him as soon as, he's out of the protocol and it's nothing serious, and he hopefully doesn't have what's going on with the panoramic right now. But definitely seeing him go out, and we still were able to step up in that, with him going down. Reggie Bullock stepped up. We saw Kevin Knox give us some minutes, so on and so forth. And like you mentioned, this team is deep, and we went back to what was basically making us this surprise story amongst so many other people Knicks fans as well. But what made us this surprise story is the fact that we fight from the beginning of the game to the end of the game defensively. And the last thing too I want to mention too is also offensively. Richie, the last few games we've scored more than 105 games. I think the only game in the win streak that was that like 1 or 2 or whatever was not the Grizzlies game. God, who was it? Was the
Lakers.
We have the Lakers game, right? No, Lakers too. We scored 111 points. It was
but I think that was the game where we couldn't shoot. We were not shooting well from downtown, but we still won.
But the point of the matter is, the Knicks were scoring above 110 points damn near every night. You know, so the defense is one thing. We know we do that. We still were holding other teams down to the standard that we've been doing defensively. But on top of that, we had offense to also put on top of that. You could put that with Julius Randle, sure, but there's other players on the team. RJ Barrett, like I said, in those first 2 games this past week, he wasn't playing that great, but we were still getting the buckets from Alec Burks, from Derrick Rose, from Reggie Bullock. We were getting a lot of help from a lot of those guys. And I just feel like the team seems to be finding their identity. You know, we know we are a defensive team, but now as far as the offense and how to get to their spots and stuff like that, right now we're building those habits. And I feel like that's important, especially if we are going to make that run to hopefully make the P word. I'm not going to say it yet, but we're almost there. I'm almost ready to say it. Almost.
That's funny that you say that, because I was going to ask you and be like, yo, is it time to say the P word, or are you still holding it back? I love that you're holding it back. I love that you're holding it back, because we're not there yet. We still got a crazy West Coast trip coming up. But what's your confidence level on the next 5 games at home? Because we are versing the Hornets, and then the Hawks, and then the Raptors, and then the Suns, and then the Bulls, I believe. So what's your confidence level in those 5 games? I feel like Knicks fans we're like, yo, we can win every game because we're on a right. But we have to be realistic here. Yeah. We're going up against the Hornets and the Hawks back-to-back. Those 2 games are really important because, as we know, the Hornets are right below us in the standings. The Hawks are right above us. What's your confidence level in the next 5 games, and what are your expectations when you come to the rest of the homestand?
Yeah, though I came in here hot on my my Terry shot to Terry energy, talking about give me more, and I do truly believe that. Like you mentioned, we do this YouTube thing, and we have a lot of takes that come out, and a lot of them could be wrong, and then we get called out for that. So because of that, I'm a little bit more. I try to bring myself down and not let myself go full Knicks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that being said, it's the same mentality that a lot of these the Knicks players, like you mentioned at the top, have, is that take every game 1 game at a time. So what I do, especially knowing all those teams you just mentioned are teams that are inside of our little playoff bubble. Oh, there you go. You gotta bleep that out for you, Richie. In the postseason bubble that we're in right now. Like you mentioned, the Charlotte Hornets, the Hawks, and the Raptors. Raptors right now are in 10 in that play-in, and then the other 2 teams are in where we are right now, above the play-in tournament. So I'm completely forgetting the win streak, to be completely honest with you. We got to look at these games as a completely separate thing. We beat Western Conference teams last year. Julius Randle, like that was great, but right now these teams are the guys that are immediately next to us. These are our immediate competition, more ways than just the fact that these are the guys that are on our schedule now. These are the guys that are ahead of us in that whole seeding right now. So we have to look at it like that. We need to beat this team so we can be a better seed. We have to beat this team so we can be a better seed. Forget the 6-game winning streak. Don't even think about trying to extend that. Worry about what you're trying to do. If the postseason is the real goal for this team, look at it that way and go into each of these games 1 at a time. Because like I said, these next 3 games are games that are important for us immediately. Hornets, Hawks, and Raptors, because Raptors are climbing their way up. They just bumped the Bulls right now in the 10th seed, and then we got a crazy game against the Suns coming up. So that's how I'm looking at it. So to answer the question on how I feel, I honestly feel like I feel confident going into these. I do feel like we match up well against the Hawks. I feel like with our defense, I think that'll give us an edge on them, and hopefully our offense continues to play the way it's been. And the Hornets, their hot streak has gone down a little bit, so I feel a little confident going into Tuesday's game as well. But like I said, I'm not looking at this as a continuation of our win streak. I'm looking at this for our P-word lives right now. So I hope that the Knicks have that same kind of energy and they go into it the same way.
Absolutely, man. Very well said. So I think we got to talk about this man, Derrick Rose, because his impact on this team has been astronomical. We stat pat on the trade deadline. We did not make any moves, but we're forgetting we made a trade this season. Just because we didn't make moves at the deadline does not mean we did not make any trades this season, and that is Derrick Rose. So what are your thoughts on Derrick Rose, and how important has he been to the ability to bring this team back? Because yesterday we saw If it wasn't for D Rose, we lost that game. I mean, I don't know about you, but I was sinking into my pessimism Knicks real quick, saying like, oh, this game's over. And when Derrick Rose hit that clutch shot with like a minute and a half left, when he shot it, I was like looking at my TV and it went in, and I was like, all right, let's go. Cool. I still didn't know. I wasn't going to get super pumped because I'm like, we still got to get a stop. We still got to get another shot. And I'm like getting back into my old Knicks ways. But we somehow will our way back into that game because of Derrick Rose. And, of course, Reggie's clutch shot in the corner and Julius Randle. So how important has Derrick Rose been to this team, whether that's the development of the young guys to instill the Tom Thibodeau system? We know that he's a former MVP. He still looks like he has a lot of juice left in the tank. He's only 32 years old. And you can even still talk about Taj Gibson because I feel like those two guys go hand in hand. They're both 32, right. I'm pretty sure. They both were with Thibodeau in Chicago and Minnesota, and they're both two different positions, and they're both just such pivotal parts to this Knicks team and when it comes to veteran leadership. So just go off on how awesome Derrick Rose and Taj Gibson has been.
Yeah, I'm going to talk more about Derrick Rose in a second, but yeah, you got to give Taj credit. And no, Taj going on 36, and he out there playing. He's keeping up with these guys as like he's getting these minutes just the same as Nerlens Noel, and I wouldn't say Julius Randle, not to that level, but he's getting a solid amount of minutes because of how hurt we've been at the big man position. So yeah, Taj deserves all the credit in the world, especially last night. He did a great job filling in for Nerlens Noel. We didn't really have to go to Pell at all. I thought we were going to. But once Nerlens was evaluated, everything was good and some minutes. Taj did a great job in that period of time, and you can even see that the respect that he's gained from the rest of his teammates. So all respect to Taj. But the initial question with Derrick Rose, yeah, he's been great. To be completely honest, I'm gonna be real. As great as he's been in the stretch of games since we've had him, I've been worried about him. Not physically, but more of his just. With his energy level, what I'm talking about. And that's not the word. With his gas tank, there you go. Let's go that route, because it feels like we saw there was a period of time, especially in that a little bit of a losing streak that we had. I won't say streak, but we were not playing too well right before the win streak, where it seemed like we couldn't give D Rose more than 25, 26 minutes, because even in those last 3 minutes of his play, he always looked gassed. Like a lot of his layups were coming up short and all kinds of stuff like that, where it just seemed like it was just frustrating because it's like he plays so well for us throughout the entire game, but when we need him, where I'm hoping he's the one closing the game, not Elfrid Payton, it's looking like he was getting big gassed. And it felt like once we got into this win streak, and this thing, I don't know if it had to do with COVID. I don't know if it's because of that, and he's trying to get his air back and stuff like that, which it could definitely be that. I don't know what it is, but I was a little worried about it. But seeing this win streak and seeing how he was, so vital, especially in the game last night, where he definitely played more than 25 minutes, and he was very important in that the when it mattered in the fourth and in the overtime. He's been tremendous for us, and like you said, more than just his play on the court, from a veteran standpoint, he's been so good. And it still blows my mind because I don't know about you, Rich, but I remember Derrick Rose coming into the league being so to himself. Like he was this great, epic MVP level player, but he was never one to, talk to the media or talk to his teammates and, spread some knowledge. This and that. He never was that. When he came to the Knicks, he was trying to do his thing and trying to prove everyone wrong, which he should be. But he was never one to be that kind of guy, like, I'm going to help this next guy up, even though probably at the time we didn't have a next guy up. But you know what I mean? And you saw even before he was traded to the Knicks that he was openly talking about, I want to keep playing. I want to keep showing you guys that I can play, but this is going to be Killian Hayes' team. Like, I'm making sure I'm going to be here for this guy and mentor him. And that was brought over instantly when he came to the Knicks with Obi Toppin and Emmanuel Quickley. And you're seeing that. And his play, you can see the confidence boost that guys like Obi Toppin get on the court. Kevin Knox, in the few seconds he was playing, I'm seeing Kevin Knox make a defensive play and blaming somebody else, but having some kind of energy, because normally Kevin Knox, makes a mistake, you see the head go down. Now Kevin Knox pointed at somebody else. I'm like, yes, sir. Like, you were wrong, but I love it. That's right. Let's get into it. That's that brotherhood I want. So there's so many facets of his game that it's just been so vital for us in this win streak, and answer a lot of my questions. Because like I said, I was just worried about the how much he's going to make it into the game, because like I said, it just seemed like he would always get gassed at the end of the games, but it wasn't the case, especially last night. So Derrick Rose has been huge for us, and like you said, it might not have been the Lonzo trade, it might not have been the Victor Oladipo trade in that third, but it was definitely a very neat and very necessary trade to help this team get to where we are right now, 31-27.
Exactly. And if we want to get back into yesterday's game, I don't know about you, but right when Barrett got out with the foul, when he fouled out, I was like, wow, who is going to step up? besides Julius Randle. Like, obviously, we know Julius is going to be the number one guy, but we're usually having Alec Burks. We're usually having RJ Barrett hitting those clutch shots in the fourth quarter. So who's it going to be? And it ended up being Derrick Rose and Reggie Bullock. And that just shows you how deep this team is. We're not just one-dimensional with Julius Randle. Obviously, Julius has been carrying the team with 4 straight 30-plus point games. He's just astronomically off the charts on how good he is. The revenge tour, that I love that you brought that up. He went against his former team, the Lakers, that drafted him. Then he went to New Orleans, the team that he was at. And then he went home to Dallas, and he went back to New York City to verse the Pelicans once again. And he went off in all 4 games. Hopefully that can propel Julius to be consistent. We can't expect him to put up 30 points, 10 assists, and all this for the rest of the year. But let's hope he can continue that. But still, I feel like what we saw yesterday is such an important part of this Knicks team because it shows the depth. We're not reliant on just 1 or 2 players to carry the load. We have players that can step up, that next man up mentality. Tom Thibodeau says it all the time. When a player goes down, we have people step up, such as Nerlens Noel. Mitchell Robinson, obviously, unfortunately, left the game. He had 2 fractures, one in his foot, one in his hand. So he's out indefinitely. Nerlens Noel has stepped up and protected that rim at an elite level. So what are your thoughts on Nerlens Noel? And he is a pending free agent. Do you think it's pivotal that the Knicks sign him at the offseason?
On this show, you asked myself and Terry who our favorite signings were. Do you remember my answer?
Nerlens Noel?
Nerlens Noel. Nerlens Noel was my answer, and it was for this reason right here. And it was not saying that I was expecting Mitchell Robinson to be hurt, but for what he's done for this team this year. Like, this is what I was expecting. And now it's at an extended rate because now he's been our starting center and he's been doing it even more so. Now to the point where he's getting these mid-range bunnies that even Clyde is still not ready for every time he shoots them. He's making them at a good clip. You know what I mean? Nerlens Noel's been great.
And the clutch free throws. I'm sorry to cut you off.
The free throw, 100%.
That's
No,
crazy.
right. Yeah. Because there was a few games ago, right before the win streak, he had an opportunity for 2 free throws and he missed them, and that helped us lose that game. And since then, hasn't been the same. You know, he's had opportunity, I feel like, in all of these games to make free throws to send us over or give us a nice cushion. And he's done it every single time. It's just Nerlens Noel of all facets. And my favorite thing for him is just the grit. You know what I mean? He's just fitting that mold in New York so well. Yesterday, it looked like I thought it was his wrist. I was like, he's done. He's going to at the very least maybe a sprain. But he fell right on the hand. You could tell that it was really slow. And for him, normally he doesn't really move too slow with injuries and stuff like that. So I was just like, damn, this is it. This is a big one. Hopefully Pell he could step up. Nah, that man came right back out, and he looked like he never left. Went right back on the court, and he gave us another one of those key blocks at the end of the game against an all-star level player in Brandon Ingram. So this dude has been an anchor for sure. And, yeah, as far as talking about, for the future – look, man, I say this all the time, and I was talking to CP about this. Like, I understand we want to, build and get the big players and, build around your younger players. But at the same time, just like with the coaching carousel that we've had for so many years and decades at this point, I feel like it's a point where we need to start solidifying some spots with these role players, with some of these, these key veterans that we have on our team. And I feel like guys like Alec Burks, hell, even Reggie Bullock, and definitely Nerlens Noel, these are the kind of guys that, yeah, their pay might be bumped just a tad bit, but it might be time to, solidify our bench a little bit more by getting these veteran guys. And of course, adding in the draft and adding in free agency and whatever the case may be. Like I really believe, I don't know about you, Rich, I believe that this offseason is going to be insane because there's no way a Tom Thibodeau-led team is going to have 4 rookies with us having 4 draft picks in this year's draft. And then we got all the money in the world. We're the lowest paid team right now. And like there's so many storylines right now that this offseason is going to be a lot of fun. So there's going to be a lot of shakeups. But as far as if we are to keep anybody on the squad, he's definitely one of the 2 favorites I have in him and Alec Burks. I don't know, what happens next. So we have Derrick Rose to talk about. I'm sure a lot of people want to keep Taj and this, that, and the third. But if there's anybody I'm looking at bringing him back, is definitely solidifying Nerlens Noel as that backup center for us, depending on what we do with Mitchell Robinson, and definitely securing Alec Burks as being that guy for that offensive push for us off that bench. So, yeah, I to me, it's no question. He's definitely playing the way I was expecting him to play. He had a little bit of a rough start. People were calling him paddle hands and stuff like that, cement hands and all those kind of, crazy memes. But defensively, he's been tremendous for us. And I think I know it's turned into an all-star award, but I think he should be definitely in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. I really believe so.
100%. I mean, he's top 5 in blocks. He's elite at defending the rim. Very well said. If you guys are new to the stream and you guys did not smash that thumbs up button, please make sure you do so. And don't forget to subscribe to CK2K. That is down below in the description. And make sure you do so. Again, I'm assuming you're all already subscribed to CK, but make sure you do so. He's got excellent Knicks content over there. And we're going to piggyback off of what CK just mentioned, and we're going to talk about what the Knicks should do in the offseason. Now, we're thinking ahead, right? We're getting a little ahead of ourselves. We still got a season to worry about. But like CK mentioned, this offseason is going to be very interesting. And I saw a tweet earlier today. I'm going to bring it up real quick just so I can read it perfectly. Nice. Something that the Knicks are not – they don't have a big payroll this year. And that shows you – here it is. The top 10 valued roster in the NBA when taking into account team salary as it is relative to wins.
Yeah.
And the Knicks are not on that list. That tells you the Knicks are not buying talent. They're not a team that went in the offseason last year, traded for this player, signed a max player, and now they're winning, right? I feel like that would have been a little less cool. But what we're doing right now is we're winning with culture. We're winning with coaching. We're winning within the organization from top to bottom. And the bench is so fun to watch. Theo Pinson being the number one guy on the bench and Reggie Bullock tweeting that this guy deserves a lifelong contract. He is so important to the team. Obi Toppin and RJ Barrett dancing together to go New York. Go. I mean, you just see the culture. You see everyone playing so well together. You see everybody getting along. And that's so important to winning because we know the past 7 or so years, it's been toxic for the New York Knicks, whether that's the media just burying us, saying that we suck, Dolan this, Dolan that, and then the coaching carousel. We're not going to get into the previous toxicity of the New York Knicks. So what do you think the Knicks got to do in the offseason? Is there anybody you're targeting? Obviously, you and I both want to bring in Lonzo.
Yeah, right.
But go into your hypothetical, a realistic route of what the Knicks should do, whether that's trades or target in free agency.
Yeah. Oh boy, realistic. Look, man. I like I just mentioned. I don't see us coming out of this draft with 4 rookies. So that being said, and this is not me saying that this is what I want or what I'm looking at, but also I do believe that there is a possibility that if this is the route that the front office wants to go, we got to be realistic here. And I love Mitchell Robinson. I think Lonzo Ball, if we do get Lonzo Ball, Mitchell Robinson will be one of the first to benefit the most from Lonzo Ball's game. I know everybody's looking at Obi Toppin. I think it's going to be Julius Randle. I think it's going to be RJ Barrett. And I think it's going to be Mitchell Robinson that playing with Lonzo Ball, you'll see their games just expand even more. But at the same time, we have to start to consider the future. Like we just mentioned, we've been very smart with our books, especially with how we've started this decade, or excuse me, we started the last decade, and we're not going to go in the past, but we used to throw money at everybody, and it was never the right person. You know what I mean? So to be able to have a front office that understands the books a little bit better and know who to spend the money on, how to spend the money, I feel like there's going to be a conversation being had that there might be some sort of move that involves Mitchell Robinson. He's coming up on the last year of his contract. I definitely could see a package that could be made to possibly move this team up in the draft, being that we have 2 picks that are in the first round, pile them up with Mitchell Robinson, who knows what can happen. I'm not saying that that's what I want. I'm just thinking as the front office, like I don't find that crazy for them to look into that, like to possibly go up and try and snag like an Evan Mobley or something like that, instead of coming out of this draft with 4 rookies, make a move, get 1 solid rookie that can go forward with this team that you're trying to build. So I could see that being a possibility. Richie, to be real with you, I say it all the time, and it's such a scapegoat answer, I understand, but I don't have a solidified answer on names just yet. I just feel like there's something in the water, something brewing, that there could be some kind of shakeup to that extent, whether it is him. I'm hearing people trying to throw out Obi. I don't know if they do that just yet, but that could be. I don't know. But I do believe that there's going to be some kind of shakeup that happens in the draft that might include guys like, Mitchell Robinson, or I don't know, some name like that. But as far as free agency is concerned, yeah, it's a given. I want Lonzo Ball. I think we should all want Lonzo Ball. People want to talk about Lonzo this. And Richie, I'm probably sure you heard it too, but Lonzo didn't have the greatest game against us, but we forget he's coming back from injury and he's under a minutes restriction right now. But people are thinking like, this is the guy you want. He's so bad. Everything else he's done this season gets thrown on the wayside.
Our defense is that good. So, hey.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But anyways, and Lonzo Ball helped us out. Like, let's not really. Lonzo wants to be a Knick. He's already a Knick. All right, he helped us on that last play. He's already a Knick. Lonzo Ball's with us. We caught this video catching him clapping when we played him on Wednesday when we scored, and then he like immediately. Lonzo's a Knick. All right, so let's hope that we seal the deal this offseason. But as far as any other player that I'm looking at, and even if we don't get Lonzo Ball, like I'm not stupid. Like, it's not a for sure thing. We're in the lead to possibly get him because of, like you mentioned, our money. We have the most money to offer him. But, if that doesn't happen, like, hopefully we can get some of these other guys that are rumored that I don't think can happen. I don't think Brogdon's going to be traded. I really don't think the Pacers are going to move him. And I don't think Jalen Brunson is going to be moved at all. But if those are possibilities, I'm looking at them. I'm looking at other names that are in this free agency class that I think that would be really useful for us. But like I said, we got to go one step at a time before I can even think about free agency. We got to see how we do in the postseason, because if we can get a 4 and 5 spot, there's a possibility that we can move to the second round, and then next is the draft. And if we get good draft picks and we make a trade, then depending on who we draft, we might not need Lonzo, we might not need a certain other player. So we have to go through those steps first. So it's hard for me to answer this question right away because I'm just loving what's going on. But all I do know, and I can answer it this way, the fact that we're playing with house money right now, we are in a win-win situation. We make the postseason, exactly. We make the P word, and we make a nice run. We win a few games against one of these tired teams, or we go to the second round playing against a Hawks or a Hornets or something like that. It's all a great situation for us because at the end of the day, we're still going to have a solid pick in the draft, multiple solid picks in the draft. We have options to do whatever we need to do. We have the cap space. So we're in a good space. But as far as like specific names, I ain't got nothing like that for you yet, Richie. I just think, like I said, the Mitchell Robinson thing, I feel like that's something that might be in the waters because the injuries are becoming a little worrisome. And I don't know. I think that's something that the front office might be thinking about.
Yeah, very well said. And just to stay on this topic for one more question, without giving any names, what do you think this Knicks team needs position-wise? Is it a point guard? Is it a wing? Is it a big man? Since Mitchell Robinson's not, as durable as we wish, like what positions, without giving up any names, do you think would take this Knicks team to be a contender in the East? Because right now, like you said, we're winning on house money and it's a win-win situation. Yeah. Like this season, the expectations going in were bottom, according to everybody out there. And even us. I mean, I had you on the show before the season began and we gave our record predictions. And hey, we were being realistic. We didn't expect them to win 31 games. And there's still ways to go.
Counting.
Yeah, I don't even know what was our expectation, like 24 wins, 25 wins.
No, you and me. I thought we said 27.
Yeah, 27. Okay,
yeah, because we thought that was high when we said it. Like we were like thinking we were shooting too high at 27.
Exactly. So, which position and what type of player, without giving up any like specific player, do you think this Knicks team needs to take that next step in 2022 to be a contender?
Yeah, definitely. I think this is what Lonzo Ball just fits in that. But I feel like we need a point guard, but not just a point guard. I know everybody wants the sexy scoring point guards, but I feel like we need a Lonzo Ball facilitating point guard, whether we do go the route in drafting someone, we're able to get a good facilitating point guard that has a star level at some point or whatever. I think that that's very important because I feel like we have a lot of offensive potential, like, with our defense being the way it is. I feel like we don't capitalize enough on transition play because we just don't have a point guard that moves the ball. Elfrid Payton's a guy that's a ball stopper, and he'll get you a good pass, but it's after dribbling the shot clock out for about 8 seconds. And so and I'm not trying to throw shade. I know everybody's throwing shade at Elfrid Payton. I'm just being realistic with what's going on. So to me, I feel like a facilitating point guard that will also give us some shooting. I think that's definitely number one. So that's why Lonzo Ball is my favorite. It just makes too much sense. But definitely a wing. We need more help at the wing because a lot of our twos are playing the three a lot more. Alec Burks is playing some three ball. He's playing some point guard. Alec Burks is literally playing everything besides the center. Reggie Bullock, he's doing a good job guarding a lot of the wings, but he's, a little undersized too. So I definitely think we need some more offense at the wing, and especially in today's NBA. That's where a lot of the offense is coming from anyways. And, RJ Barrett has been great, but we also he needs help. You know what I mean? And I love Kevin Knox. I would love to see him get that chance, but I still think we should boost up the wing a little bit. But big man, I'm open to the move if we do move Mitchell Robinson, but I would love to see us go forward with Mitchell Robinson. Like I said, especially if we get Lonzo Ball, I just feel like he can give us a good blend of both. Maybe he's not going to ever be that three-point scorer that a lot of people think he is, but I think that there is still more to Mitchell Robinson's offensive game that we just never had somebody that was able to tap into that. So I'm not looking to make a move Like I said, especially if we can get Zoe. But I just feel like he would just unlock him. Anyways, so it's hard for me to look at it, but it is something to think about that we do need some more depth at the big man, a little bit more of a shooting big man, because as much as I love Nerlens and as much as I love Mitch, both of those guys are not really shooters, and in today's NBA, they're not stretches. So to get like that third option that maybe can get some of those minutes, maybe some of the Taj minutes that he's been getting, that's more of a shooting big that can also play some D. I think that's something we should look at. So to answer the question, sorry, very long-winded, but yeah, I would like a facilitating point guard that can give us some scoring and defense, a wing, and like I said, more of a stretch big.
Yeah, man. And every time you mention Mitchell Robinson, I just get so depressed in me because I know how good he was playing when he got back from that first injury.
He's playing really well. Yeah.
Stay on the floor, and he's going to get unlocked. And that he was like his second game back from that first surgery he had. He was dominating. The game he got injured against the Wizards, the first injury he had with the hand, he was on pace to have a 2020 game. He was had 14 boards and 10 points at half or something like that.
Half, man.
Exactly. Like Mitchell Robinson, people forget how much he was improving this year. It's just so unfortunate that the injuries are, hindering him. And that's unfortunate. That's a big part of sports, The availability is the best trait you can have. And unfortunately for Mitch, he cannot stay on the floor with those really weird nagging injuries. And that fractured foot he had, I still watch that and I'm like, where did it happen? I don't see any tweak. I don't see any this. And even Mitch posted about it. He's like, I don't know how this happened, but we'll move off that.
And I think, and just real quick before you move past that, and I think that's the reason why I'm not joining that injury prone conversation yet. I don't think he's injury prone. I think the two injuries he had were freak accidents. Like those were not, it's not he tweaked the knee again and nothing like that. And yes, he's had some injury history, but like I mentioned a few videos ago, the injuries he's had, they were short-term injuries. Yeah, it was annoying the timing of them, but he was able to come back and play. A lot of people think that he missed more games than he really did miss in his first two seasons. This is probably the most games he's missed in this season. Probably it is. And they were both freak injuries. So I'm not ready to call him injury prone yet. Yeah, I know he's 7 foot tall, so it's a lot harder for him to make that argument. But I don't know. I'm not ready to call him injury prone. I just feel like you just mentioned, those two injuries were freak injuries. So
and just to stay on the Mitchell Robinson topic real quick, do you know his timetable to return? Say the Knicks do make the P word and they're in the first round. Do you know if he'll be back in time, or do you think he's out indefinitely for the rest of the year?
Well, we didn't even reach the 4 because they said 4 to 6 weeks was the initial thing, and then it turned to definitely. But they said they're going to evaluate him in 4 weeks, and I think this is the 4th week. This is about to be the 4th week, or that we just ended the 4th week. So I'm sure we'll probably hear some news here in the next few weeks on a timetable, because he's still healing, obviously, but they're going to evaluate him hopefully within this week. So my guess is that he'll probably be out until if we make the P word. But I don't see him coming back if at all in either of these stretches, in the homestand or in the road trip. Maybe he comes back for those last 3 games that we have, or maybe he comes back right in time if we do solidify our spot in for the P word. But we'll see what happens this week. He's supposed to get evaluated. I think we're at the 4-week mark right now.
Word. Good to know. Good to know. So let's move on and talk about this man, Julius Randle, because he deserves all the love. So as we know, we went over earlier on, he's on the revenge tour against his former teams, went back home to Dallas, and just he's taken everything personal. And we saw the Players Tribune article that he wrote and how Kobe Bryant unlocked the different work ethic within him, and that whole story when he went to Detroit, and the last person that really was at that gym was Kobe Bryant, and it got really emotional. That was a month after he passed, very emotional moment. And we know that Kobe Bryant, his energy is living within Julius right now, because that was his mentor. When Julius was a rookie on the Lakers, we know what happened, unfortunately, his first game of his career. But then ever since that, Kobe Bryant was in his ear. He went under his wing, and he was determined to turn Julius Randle into a beast. And I love the story where they landed in Dallas in, I think, Julius' second year, and they're home. And Julius Randle's home, and his first instinct is like, all right, I got to hit up my friends and family. What are we doing? And Kobe's like, hey, you're coming with me. We're going to get up extra shots. And that's what really unlocked Julius to realize, okay, what if I want to be great like Kobe, I need to be having that next level mentality of work ethic. And now it's trickling down, and we hear that the entire Knicks team is doing what Julius Randle has done. And it's awesome. Before we get into Julius Randle, I want to get into the super chat from V-Man. Thank you so much, V-Man. Hey. Very generous. This is one of my loyal subscribers all across my YouTube channels. I appreciate you, V-Man. Knicks are playing like the 90s. You know what that means. Time to dust off your copy Mortal Kombat and Sega Genesis and bust out your copy of Nevermind of your CD player and let's go. Back to man. We are really going, we're channeling our inner 90s Knicks. And unfortunately, I'm a young Knicks fan. I was born in 1998, so I did not get to witness the 90s Knicks, but I'm very well informed with that. So CK, what are your thoughts on the Knicks channeling their inner 90s mentality? Because we know Tom Thibodeau, pretty sure he was the assistant coach in the 90s with the Knicks. And that 90s Knicks, whenever I think back on that, we were the gritty Knicks. Nobody can go into the paint with ease. We're defensive-minded, grinding out these games. So could you really see the 2021 Knicks have that 90s Knicks mind, that vibe?
I think we have that vibe now. I think we are feeling. You know how I know we have that vibe right now. So we've talked more. We've talked just as much about our Knicks as we've talked about the best player on any other team we've played. Their best player crying. We've talked about Luka whining. We talked about Zion whining. We talked about all these other players. You know why they're whining is because the defense is too much. They're having a rough time. We're playing physical too physical for them. So I feel like we're in that right now. There's a reason why these players are crying a lot more when they play against us because they're being gritty. And these referees are having a hard time giving us these calls because they don't know how to referee us because we're not playing the 2021 way. That's why I think we get upset when we see guys like Julius and all these other guys like complain. Like, nah, don't complain. Go out there and play the game and make them complain. That's what we're doing. So, yeah, I think we're showing that we're the New York Grits a bit here in 2021. Maybe not at that level, but definitely we're doing a nice little remix right now.
Hey, maybe the 2020s can be a whole decade of the 90s Knicks. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but you never know.
Nah, put the energy out there. I like that. Put the energy out there. Let's see.
Manifest it into existence,
yes,
baby.
Yes,
Appreciate the donation, V-Man. You are indeed the man, as always. So let's get back into Julius. I was going off about his whole player tribute and his mentality and his evolution as a player is just astronomically insane. So do you think Julius Randle is the future of this team? And should the Knicks give him a max contract in this summer, or should they wait it out? And because the way I look at it, I think Julius Randle is obviously a revelation right now. He is amazing. He should be the most improved player of the year without a question. He is potentially going to be an all-NBA team. Hopefully the third. Better be, right? So Julius Randle, he's improved every single aspect of his game, shooting beyond the arc, mid-range jump shots, free throw line, playmaking, rebounding, who's always good at. But Julius Randle's game has evolved every single year. And the craziest part about Julius Randle that a lot of people forget about is he's only 26. That's crazy. He has so much room. Like if he was 31, 32 years old, then I think this would be a different discussion if he deserves a max. So do you think Julius Randle is worthy of the max this year, or should we go into next year with him being a pending free agent? I feel like Julius is the perfect number 2 on this team. I love Julius, but I really feel like we need to bring in, I don't know how we'll do it, but I don't know, man. Do you think Julius is the future of this team?
Man, you are killing me today, Rich. You didn't tell me you was gonna ask me. That's on the spot. Yeah, you do it so well, man. And I hate having scapegoat answers because I want to answer for real, but this is just how I feel. Like Julius Randle has been great, and I've passed the point where I feel like this is a fluke. Not a fluke. I never thought this was a fluke. More so that this is just going to be a 1-year thing. That's what I was thinking. I'll be completely honest. Earlier on in the season, I was thinking that this is just this year. I don't know if it's going to continue, but no, I really think that this could be Julius Randle. Like this, we're seeing Julius Randle. Maybe the percentages might dip a little bit from here on out, especially if he stays with us. I just think that this might be who Julius Randle is. Like, all that work we talked about, all the stories we talked about, I think all that pays off. But, man, talking about max money, God, like, I don't know. I don't know because I just don't know. I'm definitely not doing it this year. I'm staying pat on that. I'm not doing it this year. I want to have that conversation next year. We have one more year of Julius Randle. I'm having that conversation next year. If Julius Randle is able to somehow outdo himself this year, I think there's no point in us having this conversation anymore. Sign him, book him, move on. But I'll say this, Richie. I'll say this. Here we go. I say I'm leaning more towards signing him long term. But the problem is, I'm with you, man. I just don't know if he is that number 1 right now. I don't. He's doing a great job of it right now, but right now we are, like I said, we're like you said, we're playing with house money. We are who we are right now. We're just trying to make a dent, and we're trying to show that we're about it. And we're back. But at the same time, this isn't our final form. You know what I mean? So I just don't know if he's the number one to go along with that long term. I don't know that yet. I just don't know that yet. I just do know that he is very important. And, I feel like that we need to – I'm not ready to commit there yet. I'm not ready for it. Let's talk about this next year. I keep saying it.
I don't blame you,
ready
man.
for it. It's just –
it's like too good to be true that he's this good. And
that's what I'm saying. And it's nothing against Julius. It's nothing against what he's done. It's nothing against, like, I don't think that like I said, I don't think it's a fluke. It's just at the same time, like he's playing tremendous basketball. Like for him to be a 28% 3-point shooter last year, and now he's what he's 40? Is he still in the 40s? He's 39, yeah. 40s? Like 41. That's ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like that is a huge step defensively. I'm seeing Julius Randle not make those lapses that he made in the past. Like his effort and all, it's just been great. And Tom Thibodeau has been a revelation for him in that. And Kenny Payne has been a huge part of that. Like he's looking like Kentucky Julius.
Luckily, he did not leave us, Kenny Payne.
Thank God. Yeah.
Lost Woody. Shout out to Woody. We love you, but
yeah,
it would have been absolutely terrible if we lost Johnny Bryant, Kenny Payne, and Woody. But
yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. Like, as much as I love Mike Woods, he's probably one of my favorite coaches in the NBA. I just because he was one of my when he was the last one that got us to the playoffs. Like people don't give him the respect he deserves. Mike Woodson was a great coach, so seeing him go hurt, but at the same time, like you said, of the three, I think he was the one I was okay with, and at least he's living his dream. So, but yeah, to answer but not answer that question, give me a year, but I'll tell you, I'm leaning more towards giving him that max for sure. I think that this might be who Julius Randle is, but I'm just not ready to commit right now. I've seen the chat saying that, go in, give him the money, throw it in. I'm saying, I'm about 70%.
Yeah, and I don't blame you, man, because this Knicks team, we know whenever we open up the bank, it's never worked in the past. So we're not used to it. We never had somebody like this to come in. And we have to remember last year, this Knicks fan base, including myself, I'm not going to, lie to you guys. I wasn't sold on Julius Randle. This is probably the best backup plan ever because the two off seasons ago, the media is pushing that we're going to get KD and Kyrie. We opened up the cap space for that, and we missed out. So the plan B was to bring in Julius, and he wrote in his player tribune. He was not ready to be the number one option last year, and he opened up about it. He said, I know that I was the big-ticket guy. I signed a 3-year deal, $18 million per year. I'm the best player on this team. I need to be the number one option. And it didn't work, and he understood that. He let the city down, and what showed me of Julius Randle's character to just when the Knicks did not make the bubble last year and just went to work in Dallas, just tirelessly. And for him to evolve his game to be a stretch four is such an important part. Like if Julius was doing what he was doing, being a bully down low and maybe be a better playmaker like he is, but he wasn't shooting the rock well, then I don't think he would be in this conversation. I think the reason why Julius is such a big reason for most improved player and such a revelation is because of his shooting. His step back mid-range jumpers is just insane. It's like a lefty mellow. His shooting from beyond the arc is absolutely off the charts. So Julius Randle, I think the reason why the Knicks are going to consider him to have that max contract is simply because of his work ethic, his mentality. He's the engine of the team. In Tom Thibodeau's first season as a Knicks head coach, that's the star. He made the All-Star game, and he's trying to get to the playoffs for the first time in his career. And I really think the Knicks are going to offer him a max this year because if they don't, then if we go into next year, say he has another great season, then he's a pending free agent, and that's going to be scary. But then we're going to have to outbid players. But even though it's a max, so it's going to be an interesting conversation for the Knicks. But I'm on the same mindset as you.
Yeah, real quick before you move on, I'm seeing in the chat, and this is what I've been getting a lot of. It's coming from Sean Griffin saying Jay Randle needs to be traded now, and I know people are going to kill him because we're in the now right now. And even me and Richard are like, what you talking about? Not my Julius. But at the same time, I'm seeing this conversation being had. What's your thoughts on that? Like there's the argument that his level's at an all-time high right now. And because of the worry that we're still not entirely sure, like if he's going to be that number one guy, then get something for him at the value that he's at right now. Me personally, I don't know what necessarily we would be getting from. I understand his value is high. I don't know if I'm trading him. I understand why you have that thought process because, like I said, I've seen it a lot. I've been asked that a lot. But me personally, I'm not. We're past that conversation. The trade Julius conversation is past. I just feel like we We need to think about a contract situation, especially after how this season and how next season goes. We need to think about some sort of contract situation.
100%. And it's funny because going into this year, I remember some of us were like, all right, we drafted Obi Toppin. If Julius Randle has a season where he's improved, we got to trade him when his value's high. But now here we are. Julius Randle is an all-star, potentially all-NBA player,
potentially
lighting up the league. Yeah, he's going to win most improved player if he keeps it up. He is just putting up numbers. He's going to be the first player since Larry Bird, if he finishes the year with the stats that he has right now, which is 40% from downtown, 50% from the field, 80% from the free throw line. That's
crazy,
historic. So I really think in today's NBA, you need to be a stretch four, especially at that power forward position. If you can't shoot, you're not going to make it in this league. And that's why Julius has taken that big step. He just put in that work. And that's why I'm so confident RJ just can continue to evolve his game. Like, I just can't even imagine where RJ is going to be when he's Julius Randle's age, 26 years old. But that's so far in the future. But still, he's only 20 years old. That's insane. Oh, man. All right, so we're going to get off the Julius Randle topic because we love him. I think he's the future. I think the Knicks are going to give him a max contract, and he's going to be the number 2 on this team when we win a championship in the next decade. Putting that into existence, baby. Now, I want to talk about who you think is the most underrated player on the Knicks. So, obviously, the answer is not Julius. It's not RJ Barrett, right?
Right.
Those are the two guys. That's the dynamic duo, RJ and Julius. So, if you had to pick one player on this team that is the biggest reason why we are 31-27 and we are such a good team, who would you pick? And there's a lot of players you can decide from. You know, I think you can pick 4. But if you can decide one guy that's the most underrated player that's pivotal to this Knicks success, who is it?
See, I can't say Alec Burks because I don't think he's underrated. I think we all know how we feel about Alec Burks. So I don't believe him being he's underrated. He may be underrated for NBA because they might not see what we see with Alec Burks. But for us Knicks fans, he should not be underrated. I'm gonna go with the fun answer. I'm gonna go with Taj Gibson, man. I feel like Taj Gibson is definitely probably one of the most underrated players that's on this team. That is the huge part as to why we're playing right now. I want to go Reggie Bullock because I feel like he gets a lot of hate too. Like still some Knicks fans have some beef with him, but I'm gonna go with Taj Gibson ultimately. I still think Taj Gibson is probably the most underrated because that dude, he goes out there and he works every single time he's out there, and he's playing defense against all these younger, in some cases stronger bigs. Like he's out there doing a good job making Zion have to take. Zion's getting the offensive rebound, but he's forcing Zion to have to take 2 or 3 different shots before it finally goes in, and that's because of the intelligence, the IQ of Taj Gibson. And then, like you said, it's more than just what's on the court. It's also what's going on behind the scenes. And I definitely believe Taj Gibson is definitely one of those voices, along with Julius Randle and along with all the other guys we mentioned, that is keeping this team afloat, whether it is being in Mitchell Robinson's ear and keeping him positive, and the rest of the team just keeping the attitude positive for Obi Toppin and these kind of guys. Taj Gibson has been great. He's been doing a lot of good stuff, playing a lot of minutes at 35 years old, coming right off the streets at the beginning part of the season.
Yeah, we got him for insurance.
Yeah, man. And he ended up being one of the vital pieces in our rotation. He was supposed to be an insurance piece, but he's in the rotation doing what he's supposed to be doing. So I definitely believe that Taj Gibson is very vital to where we are right now on more ways than just on the court. So he's definitely probably my most underrated player. I don't think, I definitely, it was between him and Reggie Bullock, but I'm gonna go with Taj on this one.
Yeah, I feel like you can really pick any player on this team because there's so many different X factors on this team that's super underrated. You can go Reggie because his 3-and-D has been amazing. I feel like Reggie Bullock, a lot of people forget that he is a very good perimeter defender. We don't notice that, but he is locking people down. He was all over the place on defense yesterday, and I just love what I'm seeing. I think he was guarding Brandon Ingram yesterday. He's following him around. Ingram did nothing on us. Ingram is a very good player. Yeah. He is lights out, and I don't even know his stats yesterday, but he didn't even do anything.
Wasn't impressive, yeah.
Yeah, and that's all Reggie. And Reggie hit the clutch shot. So I'm going to give Reggie Bullock the most underrated player in my eyes, even though Taj Gibson's right there as well. But the ability to have that wing player that can be the 3-and-D guy is so huge. I feel like the biggest thing this season earlier on in the year that we're missing was a 3-and-D guy at the wing, and that's what Reggie is doing, and we're just not realizing it. His ability to catch and shoot, that two game that him and Randle play, when Randle hands it off to him, he screens him open for a mid-range jumper or a three. It's just so important for this team to get him in rhythm. And I just love everything we're seeing from Reggie on the defensive end and offense. And he's just a really good culture guy as well. He feels like a very good teammate. His character's through the charts. He goes on Twitter and he's just hyping these guys up. Big 15, when he got asked about if he's worried about the Brooklyn Nets, he's given everybody on this Knicks credit all the way down to the 15th man and Theo Pinson. And he understands that Theo is a big part to this team, even though he's not on the court. The culture, the ability to everybody to get along is so important. And I said this earlier on in the stream, but I don't think you guys realize that the toxicity on this Knicks team in the clubhouse, in the locker room, on the sidelines when we were losing, nobody was together. Everybody was just divided. Nobody was playing for one another, and the culture on this team is so important. And I feel like we got all the right places, all the right people in the building when it's Leon Rose and all these guys. And I'm just super excited for this Knicks team, man. It's just, it feels good, man. We're proud to be a Knicks fan. I tweeted this out the other day. I'm so happy that we got through the last 7 years of terror, of depression, of the entire NBA fan base clowning us for the ESPN, NBA. Everybody to just be on top of the Knicks because of Dolan, the Phil Jackson era. We survived. We survived that.
But now, Richie, it's about making sure we maintain it. That's the other thing, too. I completely agree, but I just want to make sure we maintain it. Like you said initially, let the 2020s be a lot like the 90s. So
I'm so happy you said that, because that segues perfectly into the next topic, which is, what is your confidence level in Leon Rose in the front office to build a sustainable winner here in New York? So right now, we are witnessing the first season with the new regime in place with Leon Rose and Tom Thibodeau and the brand new front office. And we saw what they did. They signed guys to one-year deals. They're not sacrificing cap space for the future. They're maintaining flexibility. They have draft picks. They have so much ammunition. And the free agent signings that we got was Nerlens Noel, Alec Burks. Those two guys have been pivotal to the Knicks' success. We saw their first draft, which was Obi Toppin, Emmanuel Quickley, and they hired this coaching staff. That's another big part of this front office that we have to realize. When Leon Rose came in here, they got Tom Thibodeau, they got Kenny Payne, they got Johnny Bryant, they got Mike Woodson. So that's a huge reason for this Knicks team success. So what's your confidence level in Leon Rose to build a sustainable winner, to not go all in next year and sacrifice the future, to make sure he maintains that long-term 3 to 5 year plan?
Look, man, I've joked about it before, like any moves were made, but now seeing how this season went, the joke it's not a joke anymore. I feel like it's a real deal. And I feel like there's no better president, there's no better person to be upstairs in New York City for the New York Knicks than a dude that looks like a mob boss in Leon Rose. This man, this dude, this team, everybody that's upstairs is just so well placed. And it's like you keep mentioning it, like the toxicity of the past, we didn't have that. It felt like it was three dudes that were trying to do everything. But for the first time ever of my lifetime being a fan and paying attention to the small things outside of just basketball, this was the first time ever I've seen reports about the Knicks hiring a person to pay attention to the cap space, a person to pay attention to the multiple players for scouting, multiple players to pay attention to the Knicks, like Aller and all these guys, and getting, Scott Perry, obviously a little while ago being a good move, and getting a defensive minded, not defensive minded, a big man assistant coach, a guy for the guards assistant coach, both guys that are, Kenny Payne in his own right is just highly regarded in Kentucky. Johnny Bryant is supposed to be the coach of the future over there in Utah. And then bringing back the guy who saw the Knicks in the playoffs in Mike Woodson. Like this was the first time I've seen competence upstairs, and it all started with none other than Mr. Leon Rose, the mob boss himself. And then he went on to find, the Don hiring another mob boss as our head coach. Because I used to joke all the time about Tom Thibodeau being a mob boss of his own when he was coaching the Bulls. And now we got both of these guys. It just makes too much sense. It's so New York, So all those jokes aside, the big thing for me is the fact that we have unity. We have everyone is in sync. It's not, I'm saying this, so you have to deal with this. No. Everyone is on the same page. Scott Perry, this is one that the chat is going to hate. You're probably going to hate too, but this is just an example of the unity, and hopefully it's better in the future. But Scott Perry keeps giving his boy Elfrid Payton a chance. He brings him back to the team, and Tom Thibodeau falls in love with him. We might not be fans of it, but the point of the matter is they're all in unison on who they believe they want to run with. It's not like, I'm bringing in this guy because he's my guy, make sure you use him. No, they both had the mutual. Now, hopefully in the future, they all unify on somebody a little bit better, you know what I mean? But at the same, all I'm trying to say is this bad example, but you guys get the point I'm trying to make. The point is we are all on one big unit, whether it's on the court, whether it is in the training facility, whether it is upstairs, and whether it is the people that are making the calls or on the plane scouting these players. Everybody's on the same page. And that's the reason why I feel like this is something that can be a long-term deal. This is just the beginning of what is possibly going to be, hopefully, the new New York Knicks for years to come. Starts upstairs, and everyone has to buy in on what's going on upstairs. And exactly. You're seeing that right now. So
exactly. And I feel like a lot of people don't realize the importance of the front office because we don't see them doing anything. They're in their offices, behind the scenes, making signings, making hires. They're not on the court. They're not on the sidelines coaching up the team. Yeah. They're in the back with the masks on, just looking over. This is the team we created, and we have to give them the credit they deserve. And I want to give Scott Perry a little credit because when we first hired him and Steve Mills was the president, he's the one that went out there and signed Julius Randle. He's the one that went out there and started the momentum of not giving out big contracts. He handed out the 1-year deal to Bobby Portis, the 1-year deal to Marcus Morris. And that's smart because he could have signed him to 4-year deals and we would have been in cap hell. So I really loved Scott Perry, and I actually like that they kept him with the new regime because I love Scott Perry. Obviously, the Elfrid Payton thing, not a fan of, but
that's one of the many good things he did. He's also responsible for Mitchell Robinson. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Scott Perry was very vital in a lot of keys to where we are right now. So I'm glad you're giving him.
Yeah, he does deserve a lot of credit. And I was a little worried, to be honest, when we moved on from Steve Mills, which I'm happy that happened. I was worried that they were going to move on from Scott Perry because I felt like Scott Perry has the proper vision. He's looking in the long term. And I feel like that was the biggest problem for this Knicks team for the past 7 or so years. And that's with a lot of my teams, with the Jets in particular. They think in the short term. We're in the New York City market, and they're fighting for their jobs. Steve Mills is like, okay, if we don't get a winner out there on the court next year, my job's on the line. So let's hand out all these big contracts. Let's sign Tim Hardaway Jr. to this deal. Let's sign this player to that deal and give out all this money because if we do not win, I'm not going to be here next year. And then Dolan's down their neck saying, hey, we need to win because I want money in my pocket. So when Scott Perry came in the building, he told Steve Mills, listen, we have to be patient. We cannot build a sustainable winner in 1 year. It takes a long time. And I'm not going to get into the Jets because this is not my Jets channel, but that's what the problem was with the Jets this whole time. And now they have a new man in the building with Joe Douglas that's very similar to Leon Rose. So it feels good
I'm seeing that.
To have two guys to have a long-term vision. And that's what people don't understand. It's all about thinking in the future and being patient because if you try to get a quick fix, it's going to set your team back. And that's what we've been seeing from the Knicks over and over and over again. So Leon Rose, Scott Perry, Worldwide West, all these guys in the front office, they deserve so much credit. This is only the first season with them. And I feel like they deserve so much because without them hiring Tom Thibodeau, without them going out there, and Scott Perry's the one that brought in Randle. He's the one that brought in Marcus Morris that turned into Emmanuel Quickly. Worldwide West is low-key the reason we got Emmanuel Quickly because I don't know if you saw that story when he was pounding the table. Hey, coach said we need a shooter. Draft IQ. And Leon Rose wasn't really sold on him just yet. And Worldwide West was in his ear like, we need a shooter. Go out there and get Emmanuel Quickly.
And Walt Perrin was responsible for that too. Yeah.
And obviously Kenny Payne. So it feels good to have confidence. And like I said before, this whole tangent, like we don't realize the importance of having a competent front office. You do not build a winning team without that. And that was the biggest knock on Dolan is, he's a terrible owner. He's toxic. He's throwing people out. Dolan just kept hiring the wrong people. He hired Phil Jackson. He hired this player. And now we got to give Dolan some credit.
Yep.
He's the one with that hired Leon Rose. Leon Rose didn't show up on his own. Dolan went out there and he took his time, interviewed a lot of presidents, and he brought in Leon Rose, and then Leon Rose took the job from there, and Dolan deserves the credit. Will it be sustainable? We don't know. We cannot predict the future, but if I had to guess, hey, I'm happy with what this future is looking like. And Knicks fans should be happy as well, because I don't think the Knicks have ever been this set up to win now and the future, because we went over earlier. We're not all in right now. Like if we were winning and last year we went all in on this year, it would feel a little different, but we did not go all in. This was a year where we're like, all right, we'll see what we can do with these 1-year deals. And now we're 31-27. Are you kidding me?
Lowest payroll in the league, man. And we are doing what we're doing. Crazy.
And the big reason is because of Tom Thibodeau. So before we end off the stream, I really want to give your thoughts on Tom Thibodeau, because he's obviously the biggest reason for this Knicks team besides the front office. How important has he been to this Knicks team, whether that's the defense, even the offense, the unity, the ability to not be satisfied? He's always upset, even when we're on a 6-game winning streak.
Love it.
So just go off on how Tom Thibodeau's first season as a Knicks head coach has gone. And I'm going to just change my camera real quick. So just you go crazy.
You're good. I feel like it was definitely – I think he exceeded expectations for sure. I think a lot of people came in this a little bit worried about minutes and all kinds of stuff. And though, yeah, there's been some rotational questions this season for sure. For the most part, you can have your questions about rotations and your favorite player not playing and this, that, and the third. But the fact of the matter is we're 31-27. And a lot of that has to do with our head coach, because let's be real, this team isn't that much different from last year's team. Outside of a few of the players that we have, the people that are leading the way right now in RJ Barrett and Julius Randle, they're on the team last year. You can give RJ Barrett the rookie talk. I'm sure you can say that he was a rookie. Yeah, I get that. But Julius Randle was just, 24, 25 last year. So the team is predominantly the same, just a different attitude. And a lot of that comes from none other than Tom Thibodeau. And yeah, I'm sure that they're going to iron out a lot of the rotational stuff and things like that. But Tom Thibodeau, I'm sure they just said, go in there and do what you do. Be Tom Thibodeau, and let's see how this rocks for the first year. And we're 31-27 for it. Yes, we might not be fans of the Elfrid Payton starting thing, but, it got us this far, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm sorry. Like, I get it. I'm right there with you. I would love to see Derrick Rose starting, but then at the same time, there's no way that Elfrid Payton does not get minutes. You know what I mean? So would you rather him on the bench, or would you rather him start? And for me, I'm good with what's working right now. So overall, for what Tom Thibodeau has done for this team defensively, and just as far as just making these players want it, you know what I mean? Helping sell to these players that he can only do so much. You guys have to go out there and want to win. And we've seen that in situations earlier on where it looked like the Knicks, like we would play good, but we would just fizzle out a little bit in the end of the quarters. And this year, it wasn't that case anymore. You know what I mean? So Tom Thibodeau brought in a lot of what this culture is today. And like Richie mentioned, like my favorite thing about Tom Thibodeau, my absolute favorite thing, bar none, is I don't care how much we're up by, Tom Thibodeau is never satisfied. And I absolutely love that. I love that so much, because that's a guy that is like, we can win by 22 points and he's still going to grill how Kevin Knox missed a defensive spot in the second quarter. How RJ Barrett may have had 28 points, but there was 2 times that you got scored on in the third quarter. Like, I absolutely love that, because that is how players grow and that's how players get better. So yeah, Tom Thibodeau has been great for us this year.
He's a perfectionist, and I love that you brought that up again, because he's never satisfied. Even after it feels like every single win, the press always asks him, "Are you happy now?" And he's always smiling. He's like, "You think I'm happy?" Like, he's never satisfied until. Is he going to be happy if he wins a championship? That's my question.
That's what I want to know, right? I want to know, like, what happens then? Like, he'll be like, "Okay, I'm finally happy." Like, is he going to say that?
He'll be like, "No, next year."
Yeah, let's do it. Now we have to do it again. Right.
And do you think that Tom Thibodeau? Obviously, there's still ways to go in the season. But say the Knicks do continue this trend and they make the P word, and is Tom Thibodeau in the conversation for Coach of the Year? Just because of the expectations from this Knicks team going in. And like you said, I love that you mentioned this Knicks roster is practically identical from last year.
Yeah.
Like, we had Julius and RJ. Those are the 2 guys last year. And obviously Marcus Morris, who was a big reason last year. But we brought in the rookies and Alec Burks and Nerlens Noel. Mm-hmm. That's really the only big difference. So if the Knicks continue this, I don't think he'll win the award, but do you think he should be in the conversation?
He better be. Yeah, he's definitely top 3 for sure. Top 3, top 4, but he's not winning the award. it'd be crazy to not give it to Monty Williams. I'm sorry, Monty Williams. My favorite for MVP is Chris Paul. I know it's not the media's favorite, and we're not hearing his name, but my favorite for MVP is Chris Paul. Like the way that team completely flipped the script. I compare it to like, even though even he didn't do it to that extent, but I compare it to like Steve Nash. Like the way that Steve Nash completely changed altered the course of what the Phoenix Suns were back in the early 2000s. Like Chris Paul did the same thing. They had all the talent and stuff with Devin Booker and Ayton and stuff like that. And Chris Paul has been the guy that put him in that number one spot. So, and Monty Williams has been great ever since he's been there for the last 2 years. So it'd be crazy it'd be cool. I would love it. I ain't gonna complain about it, but I don't see Monty Williams not getting that coach of the year. But definitely Tom Thibodeau is right behind him. Right behind him. If he's not second, right behind him, I think he's definitely third for a coach of the year, because everybody, every mock, every whatever power, even the power rankings at the beginning of the season, we were supposed to be at the bottom of the league. We're supposed to end this season at 24, 25, 27, whatever the case may be. And we're up there playing against all of ESPN's favorite teams and beating them. You know what I mean? So he's definitely in the conversation. But like you said, I don't know if he wins it, but he should definitely be in the top 3, in my personal opinion.
I agree. And just to piggyback off of that, let's get deep into this Knicks defense, because that's the reason why we're in every single game. Our offense has been streaky. The nights that our offense isn't there, we still end up winning because of our defense. And the system that Thibodeau has instilled in these guys to buy in, like you said, they're playing as one. They're playing on a thread. They're communicating. They're switching. They're trapping. It's just, I can't believe what I'm watching sometimes, the ability to suffocate the players, like the game plan going into whatever star player that the opposing team has, whether it's Zion or Brandon Ingram, whether it's anybody, they just have such a good game plan against them. So what's your impressions on the Knicks defense, and why do you think it's so successful? Is it the system, or is it the players, or is it everything like mixed together? So just give your overall impressions on how pivotal this Knicks defense has been this year.
Well, just basically going off of what Taj Gibson had said, and this was in Minnesota when he had mentioned it, because I remember when Tom Thibodeau turned them around as well, it was the same thing. All of a sudden, the Minnesota Timberwolves were this great defensive team, especially when you have a guy like Karl-Anthony Towns, who we know is not a defensive player, but the Timberwolves became such a a great defensive team, and that all became a Tom Thibodeau. And at that time, Taj Gibson, because they were asking, like, what is it? This is your second time playing with them, and all of a sudden they're a great defensive team. What is it? And he says it's just the way that Tom Thibodeau makes you believe that you can defend anybody on the court, and as long as you play for one another and play for each other, that nobody can stop you guys defensively. And I feel like that it's been a lot of that, because you're seeing guys like Julius Randle, who a lot of the time last year was letting a lot of assignments kill him on the defensive end. This year wasn't the case, because everybody is playing for each other. We switch really well, and it seems like that there's no mismatch even when we do switch. Even if they put, it ends up being a switch where Emmanuel Quickly's on like their, best player, I still don't think that's an easy out. You know what I mean? I feel like the fact that this team and Tom Thibodeau has that touch. He just knows how to, he's a defensive whisperer. He just knows how to speak to the players and how to get them to go out there and effort, because we say it all the time in basketball, defense is not really a skill. It's just an effort. You got to put in the effort to play defense, because you're not dribbling or doing nothing like that. It's just about staying in front of your man and guarding somebody at all. We're not playing the zone. So, he just knows how to get the team to go out there and fight and play defense. I mean, there's also a lot of it where if they score the ball a little too quickly, he's going to call a timeout and yell at you right away. But I definitely think that just Tom Thibodeau just has that touch, and he's got everyone buying in that they can be the defenders that he's saying that they can be, and we're seeing it. Look at RJ Barrett. He's turning into a two-way player right before our eyes. So, yeah, I think it just has to just do with Tom Thibodeau and him just having that magic touch. I don't know what it is, but he got it.
He does got it. And like you said, they're buying into the system and they're playing together as one. And that's what's going to make or break this season, I think, for the Knicks. I have confidence that they will. I think this defensive-minded team is so unique because the trajectory of the NBA, where it's going, it's all offensive. We see the Brooklyn Nets, they have all these players. They don't play defense, but they're still the favorites to win the championship just because of the crazy superstars they have together with Kyrie, KD, and James Harden, even though they all can't stay healthy. But I just love how they're going back to their roots, and we'll go back to the 90s Knicks analogy, because it's so refreshing that we're winning with like playing as one. We're not winning with the superstars on the team. And I feel like that's so awesome, because say we did go out there and get KD and Kyrie and we're competitive, we would be hype. We'd be hype, right? But I feel like where we are today is so different because we're building it within the organization. We're building it with culture. We're building it the right way. Yeah. And it's so refreshing. And the defense is a big part of it. So my last question for you, CK, before we end the stream is what's your expectations for the Knicks for the rest of the year? Obviously, we have 5 games left on this homestand, and then we have a very crucial West Coast trip to finish off the year. And then we come back home for 3 more games against the Spurs, Celtics, and I think the Hornets, I believe. I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're right. You're right.
Yeah, so what's your expectations for the Knicks the rest of the season? And if you had to predict, where do we finish in the standings?
No, in the standings. Okay, let me get to that one in a second. I predict that I will not be saying P word for very long. I think I will be saying the actual word here shortly. Am I ready to say that? Am I ready to say that? Yeah, no, I'm ready to say. I'll say it confident. I do think that we're gonna avoid the play-in, to be completely honest. I think we do probably finish at the very least the 6, even though I know we have that Western Conference road trip that we have coming up. I get that. I understand that. But I feel like seeing the difference between that bubble of playing teams and us, where we are right now with us, the Celtics, is the Hornets the other one, or the Hawks? The Hawks, the Celtics, and us right now being in that group. Or no, and the Hawks. It's 6, 5, 4. So it's 3. So I said them right. Sorry. I'm second guessing myself. I ain't got the schedule in front of me or the standings in front of me. But yeah, I think that we should be able to close out the season at the very least at the 6th seed, being with that company. I think that we fit with that company. I know our schedule is different, but I think that we've shown and we've proven that we can beat those teams, whether it's Western Conference or whether it is Eastern Conference. I understand Clippers are going to be rough. The Jazz are going to be rough. I understand those teams are going to be rough, but the other games that we have that we can play, I think those are games that we can win. So I do believe that we end out this season anywhere between 4 and 5. If you want me to give you one number, I'm going to split the difference. No, I'll say 6. I think we'll end the season at 6. I think we avoid the play-in tournament. I truthfully do. I think that we're gonna take care of business in this homestand, and I think that we might surprise people in this road trip. So and especially since we get to end with 3 home games, I think are gonna be pivotal. I think we end at 6 and avoid the play-in.
So say hypothetically we are the 6th seed, and say we go up against the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round.
Yeah.
What's your confidence level in that playoff series, hypothetically speaking?
You want me to be completely real, and this is Knicks fan side because I've said this just how I feel about the Bucks in general. My confidence is at a good place. It's going to be a reach. It's still the Bucks. It's still Giannis. But at the same time, the Bucks in the playoffs, just for whatever reason, they just keep falling off in the playoffs. They don't look the same as they do in the regular season when they play in the playoffs. And yes, I love Drew Holiday for that team, but this version of the Bucks isn't even, to me personally, I don't think it's that much better than last year's version of the Bucks. So I definitely think that we would give them a fight. I'm not going to say that we would win the series, but I think there's a possibility that we could come out of that. But I think we would definitely give them a fight.
All right, well, I love the confidence that you say that we're going to finish 6th because I really want to avoid that play-in tournament. I feel like we haven't made the playoffs in so long, and now seeing where this Knicks team is today, Knicks fans are like, all right, we got to avoid that play-in. Like, we don't want to be in that. We don't want to worry about it.
It's very possible. But
it is possible, but at the same time, say we get in that play-in tournament, I'm confident, say we're the 7th seed or the 8th seed, we have to win 1 of 2 games just to get into the playoffs, and I think this Knicks team to do that with the ability to lock down teams defensively, and Tom Thibodeau has to zero in. And I just want to get into a playoff series so bad. Just give Tom Thibodeau the chance to zero in on a team defensively for an entire series. You never know what could happen. He led this Bulls team back in the day to a 60-win team with a young vintage D Rose, and I'm just super excited to see what he can do for the rest of the season. CK, always a pleasure to have you on the show, my man. I hope everything's well by you. And anything you want to say before we wrap up about this Knicks team?
No, man, I love coming on here and talking to you about the Knicks. I know I got to be ready. You always come in. You always try and corner me with those questions, and they're great questions. I love you for them, man. But, yeah, no, I always love coming on the show, and you know what it is. Like I always say, I appreciate you guys coming over to subscribe to my channel, but more importantly, if you're not already subscribed, I'm seeing there's a lot of you guys in chat. Make sure you subscribe right here to my boy Richie on Knicks Meeting. My man, he's trying to get that 10,000. Y'all see him? Come on now. Help him out now.
Appreciate that, CK. And again, if you guys are not subscribed to CK, make sure you check it out. And he is live on Knicks Fan TV after every single game. So go check out Knicks Fan TV as well. CK, always a pleasure. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Let's go Knicks. We got a big homestand coming up. We're on a 6-game winning streak. Hype in the chat. Let's go Knicks. Are you kidding me? We're back. Let's get hype.
Yes, sir.
The NBA's not ready for the Knicks to be back. All right, guys. I'll catch you guys in my next stream.